We've been told that Westcott and Hort were bad, bad people. That they were spiritualists, that they were occultists, that they were possibly Satanists of the worst degree, and that they worked closely with Helena Blavatsky, the nanny of the New Age movement. The thing is I don't know. There is a situation that has come up around this controversy that I don't know if it can get much more silly. James White, Mark Ward, and Gail Rilplinger seem confused with each other's statements regarding a British occultist and an Anglican bishop, both with the last name Westcott. Was a famous Rosicrucian author, William Wynn Westcott, a code name for Bishop Brooke Foss Westcott of textual critical fame? Did Gail Rilplinger conflate the two together, the Rosicrucian and the textual critic? Did she conflate the two together to arrive at her conclusions about Westcott's spiritualism? Did James White see all of Gail Riplinger's quotes of Westcott as referring to W. Westcott? Are we dealing with what I think could only be, if this is true, if Westcott and Westcott are the same? Are we dealing with a shapeshifter, a master of disguise, or a big misunderstanding? I hate to break it to you, but there is a conspiracy behind the modern Bible version controversy, which is undermining Christianity and our civilization at this very moment. My name is Joseph Armstrong. Welcome to the Bible version conspiracy. We're building a YouTube library that is not only going to expose the conspiracy behind the modern Bible version controversy, but it's also going to seek to answer the difficult questions about Bible history, the King James Bible, and the King James Bible's supernatural character. We believe there is error on both sides of the aisle, and we intend on not showing loyalty to either side, but showing loyalty to the truth. And we are on a journey to discover the truth regarding controversial issues in the King James controversy, the modern Bible version debate. If you'd care to join us, you can check out the links in the description for our Buy Me a Coffee membership. There's a whole bunch of perks that come along with being a member. There'll be more as we roll along, and you guys can join us on our mission on a much deeper level as a co-conspirator member. And we thank all of our co-conspirators who make this live stream and everything else that we do on this channel, on our website, everything else possible. You guys know who you are. Thank you for being awesome. Stick around till the end of tonight's video, because it's just going to keep getting weirder and weirder and weirder as we discuss Brooke Foss Westcott, the shapeshifter. On March 19th, 2015, I received a comment a long time ago, and I had some saucy replies back in the day. This comment was on a video that I did reviewing Gail Riplinger's book, New Age Bible Versions. It was part 1. There was a comment that was left by a guy named Marshall Apologist. He said, "I think you might be missing some points here. Did Mrs. Riplinger, or did she not, confuse two different men as though they were the same man?" No. So here's what happened. Gail Rilplinger, in a footnote, we'll be checking this out later, the infamous footnote 128. She references the idea that possibly Brooke Foss Westcott may have been using a cover name and been one of the founders of the Golden Dawn. He would have had to have been an esoteric Mason. He would have had to have been a ceremonial magician, a Rosicrucianist, and an Illuminist. and probably also a Jesuit to be able to qualify for something like that and have even interest in the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. She included this note. It was picked up on by the famous or infamous James R. White in his Why Respond to Gail Rilplinger article. And he assumed that the reason why Gail Rilplinger said that Brooke Foss Westcott was a spiritualist is because she conflated, she added together Brooke Foss Westcott and William Wynn Westcott. And that didn't help anything, because almost everybody from that point forward cites James White and says, oh, she conflated these two guys. We'll get into it in a little bit, but she denies that anything about William Wynn Westcott influenced what she wrote about Brooke Foss Westcott. So I responded, and I knew this at the time. I affirmed that she did not conflate the two, and it was clear from reading the footnote 128 instead of just reading James White's criticisms. Martial Apologist responded, actually, she blatantly says that she's speculating that they were the same man. They demonstrably weren't. And the demonstrableness, the way that you demonstrate that these two men were not the same, is because they did not share birthdays and death dates. Okay. If you're leading a double life, that ain't how that works. Okay? We'll get into that in a bit. They demonstrably weren't. One of them died 25 years after the other. At least she needs to amend her book for that correction and stop correlating the words of one man with the other. Okay. She doesn't reference William Wynn Westcott one time. Nothing that he wrote is quoted. Unless maybe there was something in the footnote. I don't remember. All the quotations that Westcott in New Age Bible versions refers back to either one of B.F. Westcott's writings or his life and letters written by his son, Arthur Westcott. So I don't think there's any real revision that's necessary on that point. Martial Apologist, again. Actually, since I was very nearly a KJV onlyist myself and read several books on the issue, siding with your POV, I'm in quite a good place to criticize the arguments put forth by your side. The only reason I find it difficult to watch Riplinger's videos is similar to the reason I find it hard to watch pro-racist, anti-Christian, anti-egalitarian, or pro-ancient alien theory videos. It's kind of painful to watch or listen to someone who makes so many horrible errors in fact and logic. And I will say that there are some, in my opinion, at this point, looking at what Gail has wrote, by the way, you too, thank you for joining us. At this point, I think that there's some pretty horrendous errors in Riplinger's works as well. I watched a brief clip as well, which is going to be leading into next week's topic on the triquetra. You know, that symbol on the New King James that they're always talking about. And I watched that, and I was like, okay, you were asked to teach a class on the migration of symbols. Okay, that's your credentials. And then it was like 15 minutes of slide after slide after slide after slide. Oh, you think it's a Christian symbol? Oh, you think it's a Christian symbol? Oh, you think it's a Christian symbol? And it was just like, you still haven't told us anything about it at all. So that was, for me as an artist, it was kind of painful to watch. And also somebody that's at least slightly aware of ancient history and symbolism and stuff like that, it was kind of painful. So we'll talk about that at some point. Angela B., whose name now is Meat for Health 2022. She responds to Martial Apologists and says, yes, she did confuse them. She interchanged William Wynn Westcott, a London coroner. I believe he was Crown Coroner. So he would have been actually commissioned by the government, who was also a Theosophist and Freemason, with B.F. Westcott, a British bishop who worked on the Greek text that was utilized in part of the translation of the 1881 English translation, leading her readers to speculate that the two men, who had different birth dates, photos, and careers, were the same person. How does she conflate them? You don't even hear the word William Wynn Westcott unless you go look up footnote 128. Go all the way to the end of the book in the old edition. In the newer edition, go all the way to the end of the chapter and look at the enormous note that she provides. That's the only way you know about it. William Wynn Westcott, and that's W-Y-N-N, was a close friend of Theosophist Helena Blavatsky. She gives him credit in several of her books, and he wrote for several of her Lucifer magazines, and she would have also referred to them as different people, William Wynn and BF. So, this just gets so goofy. And Mark Ward with the Textual Confidence Collective, they perpetuate the same thing that is being said right here, which is sad, in my opinion. With Brooke Foss Westcott, okay, she doesn't use a lot of punctuation, so it's kind of hard to tell where I left off. When William Wynn Westcott was a close friend of Theosophist Helena Blavatsky. She gives him credit in several of her books, and he wrote for several of her Lucifer magazines. While there is no record whatsoever of B.F. Westcott ever that B.F. Westcott ever knew her or had any personal business with her. After Riplinger goes on and on for several chapters in her book, New Age Bible Versions, confusing the reader with the two Westcotts, implying that they were the same person. Huh? Okay, so I would like to see, I've looked at everything relating to spiritualism, because thank goodness the PDF of New Age Bible Versions is now searchable, and you can search a word and you can look at every time it's mentioned. You can look at every time the word Westcott comes in there, and you can see how it's used. You can look at every time the word spiritualist or spiritualism or spiritist is used, and you can see how they're used, what context, who they're talking about. I didn't see any confusion. You guys can check out what I've put together on our website, BibleVersionConspiracy.com/ spell it out, Westcott and Hort as one word. After Riplinger goes on and on for several chapters in her book, New Age Bible Versions, confusing her readers with the two Westcotts, implying that they were the same person, she admits on page 677, which would be the old version. Remember, this is 2019, and most people would have had the old version at that point. In footnote 128, that her linking them, quote, in connection between, end quote, there was no documented connection between these two men. Linking them as the same person is just speculation on her part. Pretty dishonest. Okay, how did she link them together? She said in a footnote that her son noticed that a lot of people thought that one of the letters in his signature looked like a W instead of a B. So there's Warner Brothers, and she said in the note in the newer editions that it has absolutely no bearing on the thesis of the book. It's just something that's mildly interesting. This is what I did. I affirmed, again, that she did not conflate them, and it is clear from reading the footnote 128, and also if you check out Blind Guides, and if you don't just read White's criticisms and you actually look at what she said, then it's like obvious. All right, this is from The Necromancers, which is her chapter which deals particularly with Westcott and Hort, the Ghost Society, all that good stuff. Hermes Club, Ghostly Guild, Society for Psychical Research, the Apostles, Uranus Club, the Synthetic Society, and the Council on Foreign Relations and League of Nations. So this has, I'm sure, gotten more interesting since she did all of her research for hazardous materials. So in the Hermes Club, you have Westcott, B.F. Westcott, Sedgwick, and Myers. In the Ghostly Guild, you have Westcott, Hort, Benson, Lightfoot, Johnson, and Sedgwick, which Lightfoot, Hort, and Westcott would have operated jointly in the New Testament revision. Society for Psychical Research. Society was favorably impressed by Luciferian Helena Blavatsky. I don't know if there's anywhere in New Age Bible versions where she says that B.F. Westcott or Fenton John Anthony Hort were favorably impressed by Blavatsky. That is another rumor that has been started, and it should be stopped if it is not supportable. Johnson, Sedgwick, Myers, H. Sedgwick, Gurney, Balfour, and Balfour. All right, I believe Balfour, if I'm not mistaken, married Betty, sister of Emily Lutyens, Luciferian initiate and granddaughter of Blavatsky's mentor, Rosicrucian founder, Belwar Lytton. All right. Gerald is Eleanor B. Sedgwick's brother. So that'd be your Gerald right there. Henry Bergson, sister Mina, married S.L. Mathers, co-founder of the Golden Dawn with W.W. Westcott. See footnote 128. Now that's going to refer us to the page on B.F. Westcott. So let's head over there. This is on page 473 of the 2021 edition, and the most recent edition, if I'm not mistaken, is the same. Here is the note, the infamous 128. The articles on Hermetic doctrine in Blavatsky's Theosophical Dictionary were contributed by at the special request of H.P.B. by Brother W.W. Westcott. She mentions B.F. Westcott, the subject of the past chapter, several times in her books. According to Dennis Palmu, Blavatsky used B.F. Westcott's heretical views, vagaries, and theological fog, as Lord Goshen cynically put it, as an opportunity to bridge the late Victorian theosophical gap. B.F. Westcott's son points out that his father's signature was almost always read as W, not B. Preceding his last name, see Life and Letters Westcott of Westcott, page 450. The similar identity of these two. Now, if you go look that up, there's an abbreviated version or an abridged version, and there's another version that's a little bit older, so you would want that one, if I'm not mistaken. I believe it was 1903. The similar identity of these two is not a matter of historical record. W.W. Westcott was the name given by the London Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn as its founder, the Encyclopedia of Occultism and Parapsychology at page 983. when discussing the organization. This is referencing the book. It writes, this is the official story of the foundation of the famous Golden Dawn. He published a short number of books and pamphlets on occult or mystical subjects, including the Pymander of Hermes. The Encyclopedia of the Unexplained elaborates, page 105, quote, the order's origins have been surrounded with mystery, a secret society. A member wrote of the secret chiefs of the society, I do not even know their earthly names. I know them only by their secret mottos. Strangely, now this is not, let's stop right here for a second. There is a picture on the internet. I will have to dig that up and get it into a slide presentation at some point that actually shows the three founders of the Golden Dawn together, and none of them look like Brooke Foss Westcott. Okay. W.W. Westcott looks like a younger version of the photo that you'll see on our website in a minute. Now, in my opinion, the reason why I labeled this video as was B.F. Westcott a shapeshifter is because the only way that I can see the picture of B.F. Westcott and the picture of W.W. Westcott as being the same person is if he's either a master of disguise or some sort of shapeshifter. And apparently, there is at least one person that is dead now that used to think that they were the same person. In fact, I can prove they were the same person because you never saw them in the same room together. Prove me wrong. All right, so strangely, now, spooky coincidence here. W.W. Westcott's motto, Vincit Omnia Virtus, truth conquers all things. Oh, that rings like Brooke Foss Westcott's statement that says that they loved the truth more when Henry, I think it was Henry Sedgwick, quoted him. And Blavatsky when she said there is no religion higher than truth. Okay, so they both mentioned the word truth, okay, in different statements, different contexts, in sentences. It's like, of course, somebody that's a New Ager or a Rosicrucian or what have you is going to say that truth conquers all things, just like Blavatsky is going to say that there's no religion higher than truth. And a Christian's going to talk about truth too and say similar things about the truth setting you free. It doesn't mean that they're an occultist. This is not a bizarre, spooky coincidence. And I would not say, oh, it's so strange. That doesn't, no. This encyclopedia further states, and like I said earlier, my business on this channel is not to promote an author. I am not here to promote Riplinger, Ruckman, Grady, Gipp, Waite. I'm not here to promote any of them. I'm not here to promote Ward, Wallace, White, nobody. I'm here to promote the truth. That means I'm an occultist, apparently. But my loyalty does not lie in a King James only author. If I'm going to arrive at the truth of something, I cannot let my loyalty to somebody that I appreciate blind me to it. This encyclopedia further states the order was founded upon a series of ingenious fabrications. Of course, we aren't told what those were. The Golden Dawn's teachings have greatly influenced the theories and work, to a lesser extent, the internal organization of many occult groups in English-speaking countries. Ellipsis. I hate ellipsis marks. They're just everywhere. Can't just have separate quotations for some reason. Now, it seems like William Wynn Westcott was to theosophy like B.F. Westcott was to textual criticism. Highly influential. He didn't just write a few pamphlets. He did a lot of work. Whenever I go in there and I start looking up things about William Wynn Westcott, it looks like he had a pretty large sphere of influence. I'm not sure about how it was when he was alive, but right now his works are definitely still available. It was, in fact, a prototype magical order. The Golden Dawn was to some extent a byproduct of several related factors in social history in the 19th century, in 19th century England. The spiritualist movement attracted a widespread public interest and following between about 1850 and 1890. Now here's the thing. Hang on a second. Let me get myself up here a little bit. Okay. Pay attention. Look at me, right? How come if Gail Rilplinger conflated Brooke Foss Westcott and, B.F. Westcott, Barney Fife Westcott, and Wacky Walrus Westcott, if she conflated them both together, how come she never said that B.F. Westcott was founder of the Golden Dawn? How come she always equates him with the Ghostly Guild, which he was a part of briefly when he was at Cambridge? How come? Redonkulous. Let's get back to reading that quote. Dissatisfied with spiritualism, with its many fraudulent mediums and unproven hypotheses, this is on page 474, New Age Bible Versions, some men and women turn to the study of reflected Carl. This is Carl. He does not supposed to be here. He needs to go to sleep on his little cushy. Because you can't be on my lap right now, buddy. I'm sorry. Let's see. Westcott can see. Okay, here we go. Reflected knowledge. It was not a Masonic lodge, but rather the equivalent of a literary society, which Westcott was also part of a different literary society, or not literary, reading society. I forget what it was called, but yeah, a literature thing. Westcott conceived his plan for a secret and highly exclusive occult order. Now, this is William Wynn. Highly exclusive occult order only a few months after H.P. Blavatsky settled permanently in London in 1887. Westcott clearly intended that the Golden Dawn project should, based firmly on Western Hermetic tradition. Should what? Based on Westcott, who knew his Hermetic literature well, envisaged nothing more than a cozy little secret society of occultists. Now, this is, I believe, the Encyclopedia of Occultism or whatever. Outer order members were not allowed to know of its existence who belonged to it. He was also a leading member of the associate and associate of Madame Blavatsky and Anna Kingsford, the reviver of the idea of esoteric Christianity. That'd be Anna Kingsford, I believe. Wife of a Shropshire Church of England clergyman. Now, I have to just kind of read it as a single line because there's just so many ellipsis marks in here. I hate those three little dots. Absolutely hate them. And Gail Rilplinger is the queen of ellipses. Through the constant use of chloroforms, so like you're going to be altering your state of mind by inhaling solvents, basically. Spirits began speaking to her, that would be Anna Kingsford, the doctrines of the Neoplatonists, which I think there was somebody that labeled Westcott, Barney Fife Westcott, as a Neoplatonist. I'd have to look that up. He translated the Sefer Yetzirah and the Chaldean Oracles of Zoroaster into English, page 273. All right, so the Sefer Yetzirah, I think that's how that's pronounced, is it has a symbol on its cover. It's still available today, and that symbol is actually in the background of the section where we talk about William Wynn. All right, or I guess Wacky Walrus Westcott. All right, Barney Fife Westcott's Ghostly Guild had as its offshoot the Society of Psychical Research. Its president at one point was Henry Bergson, whose sister Minna married the co-founder of the Golden Dawn, S.L. Mathers. Okay, so it's a little bit of a stretch, but there's a connection. Another SPR, Society of Psychical Research, President Balfour's sister-in-law, Emily Lutyens, how do you pronounce that? Lutyens, was granddaughter of Lord Yeton, grand patron of the Rosicrucian Society of England, based on the doctrine of Hermes. So Hermes, I believe Hermes Trismegistus is the one we're talking about there with Rosicrucianism, because just like, occultism, it just always goes back to that kind of stuff. Of which William Wacky Walrus Westcott was grand patron before starting the Golden Dawn. Although, now this is wrapping up the whole idea of William Wynn Westcott here, the infamous 128. Although any connection between B.F. Westcott, Barney Fife Westcott, and the activities attributed to the possible allonym Wacky Walrus Westcott are mildly interesting, these connections are mildly interesting, they are not the subject of this book. Barney Fife Westcott's own esoteric beliefs and occult connections are well documented in this book, in chapters 30 and 31. All of the discussions and accompanying quotations in those chapters are about Barney Fife Westcott, not Wacky Walrus Westcott. It is inconsequential to the thesis of this book whether the founder of the occult Golden Dawn Society was, as an outer order says, a mortician living in England at the time, or was someone else. So whether or not the identity of Wacky Walrus Westcott was actually Wacky Walrus Westcott, or if it was a code name for B.F. Westcott, who knows, it is inconsequential to the thesis of the book. So when Gail Rilplinger says something about him being, like part of like doctrines of devils or whatever else like this, she is not saying that because there's a possible connection, which I don't think is really even a possibility, between Wacky Walrus Westcott and Barney Fife Westcott. It's because Barney Fife Westcott says a lot of his own really weird things, and she also kind of takes a lot of his quotes just really out of context. So that's that. And we talked a little bit about those last time in the episode 5 of this podcast. So let's jump on the website, and we're going to see even more weird nonsense that goes on about this topic. This is one of the major criticisms that critics of Gail Riplinger's book, New Age Bible Versions, have actually brought out against her book. And it's just like, could we focus on real problems, please, instead of going after something that makes no sense and just making people completely close down to discussion on this? It's just, it's ridiculous. This whole situation is honestly ridiculous. So this is our website, BibleVersionConspiracy.com. This is our new page about Westcott and Hort. So, brief description of the controversy. We added the playlist this afternoon. We'll be adding this video here. There's so many things that I need to change about the website. It's just got crazy nonsense that happens here and there. And I can't figure out the covers idea. And the text, it just slides itself wherever it wants. It's so goofy. So anyways, heresy and hearsay checklist. So we're going to be going through all the different accusations leveled against Westcott and Hort and seeing whether or not they're true. And until I confirm it, they're going to remain unconfirmed. Lake Spots of Fake, where B.F. Westcott had kind of an interesting way of denying the resurrection of the flesh or body or whatever wording actually ended up becoming the standard for denying it. Just really a weird idea. That's a quotation from Kershaw Blake, Immortality in the Modern Mind. If you're Mark Ward, I highly recommend you read that. You're welcome. Gail's really bad misquote. And yes, it is a really bad misquote right there. If you want to check it out later on, go right ahead. And I've got a lot of really bad writing myself on here. hey, if you want to join us as a co-conspirator, I'll be able to afford Grammarly, and we'll be able to make this website a little better. All right, so here we go. W. Westcott, Charges of Spiritism. Critics of New Age Bible versions by Gail Rilplinger continue to claim that the Westcott she refers to as a London spiritualist is the Crown Coroner William Wynn Westcott, who was not only a Freemason and Rosicrucian, but also co-founded the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn and was an active theosophist. Does any connection exist between the two, and did Riplinger conflate and confuse the two in her books? Our desire, as always, is to get to the bottom of these statements and find the truth regarding them, not to justify Riplinger, not to justify Mark Ward, not to justify Wallace or anyone else. I just want to look at it for myself and go, is this true or is it not? Because that's what this entire channel is about. A lot of it is just my looking at King James onlyism and the claims that authors that talk about it make, and going and looking at them with my own common sense and just being like, okay, if I am going to teach my children that the King James Bible is God's word, I should look at the authors who claim those same things and learn where I can teach my children such, and where I can teach them, not and teach them that there are problems here and problems there and stuff like this. So, in other words, giving a good education to the coming generation and not letting sometimes just the stupidest problems, not letting them go by. Stupid problems on both sides of the debate. Unslandering Westcott. Although we do not agree with them on many points, we greatly appreciate Ward, and that would be Mark Ward, and the Textual Confidence Collective's efforts in dispelling myths that surround the modern Bible version debate. We are, after we called out their statements that Gail, now this is what they said, that Gail publicly said that she does not care if the statements in her book are factual. Mark Ward, and I believe his name is Peter, that sits next to Mark Ward, issued an apology for their statement in the description of their video. However, they went on to repeat that Gail Riplinger's statements about Barney Fife Westcott are false, and the result from her conflation of Bishop Westcott with William Wynn Westcott, the Rosicrucian co-founder of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. And this logo here in the back, where you see these Hebrew letters and all these intricate geometrical lines and such, that is the logo from one of his books. Or not logo, the pattern or what have you. So you're welcome, William Wynn, if you're watching this, in case you're an immortal being or something. In the description of their video, is it just to slander Westcott and Hort? Ward and the TCC cite James White and Daniel Wallace's criticisms of Gail Riplinger's New Age Bible versions, affirming the following, quote, Riplinger is someone who knows better, who has been publicly called out, and who has kept repeating statements she had to know were false. So in other words, she should know better, and she's telling lies when she knows they're lies. And I would say that that is true of especially this citation right here. It's edited in 3 spots. It picks up in the middle of the sentence, no indication. It adds an S to the end of scriptures. It adds overwhelmingly to the adds the "ly" to the end of overwhelming to make the sentence make sense as a sentence, and it removes, I guess you could call it an EM dash. That is a horrendous misquote, and we give the actual legit thing right here. So if you want to check that out later on, you certainly can. BibleVersionConspiracy.com/Westcott and Hort. One concrete example of this is her conflation of B.F. Westcott with the much younger mortician, W.W. Westcott, who was indeed a spiritualist. He wasn't just a spiritualist. He weren't just a spiritualist, I'll tell you that. And thank goodness that the PDF is searchable. Look for every reference to the word spiritualist in New Age Bible versions, and you will see that not one time does it refer to anybody that doesn't match the description of BF, Barney Fife. It's it's like how you can even get W.W. Westcott into anything that is in there. It's just, and this is where I'm happy with my niche, because I get to expose problems that we are listening to. As King James Bible believers, we are listening to these miscitations and we're agreeing with them and everything like this. And I like exposing problems that we're listening to. That way we can stop listening to them. Let's see. In the original edition of New Age Bible Versions, 1993, Riplinger identifies the two, though she admits that it is a speculation, page 677. Yet, though she has been repeatedly corrected on this matter, the latest edition of the book, 2018, it's not the latest edition. The latest edition is actually 2022. Continues to speak of Westcott in terms that are only correct if the two are indeed the same person. No, actually, no. So there are three people that identify him as like a spiritualist or what have you. These are her other researchers that she refers to, not in the note. That's somebody else we'll talk about probably in a minute. But these other people we cite further on down the page, and they are directly referring to the Ghostly Guild, and they're directly referring to Barney Fife Westcott. The spiritualist part, the spiritualism part, or anything like this, the connection there is mostly through Arthur Westcott, his son, who mentions the word spiritualist in a quotation that relates to his father. So, and that citation, in my mind, does not necessarily hold water or say that his son is saying that his father had any kind of spiritualist tendencies. It's actually a very interesting quote. We get into that in the section that we have called commas everywhere. We'll get into that at some point. We'll probably end up doing another video on this or something. Okay. Here we go. Okay. Riplinger wrote new versions in the new church they are producing. Oh, their occult bend. And yes, thank you. To their underlying Greek text, a novelty produced in the 1870s by B.F. Westcott, a London spiritualist. Okay, so here's something for the Textual Critical Collective or James White or whoever to check. Okay, here's how this works. She says, underlying Greek text, novelty produced, 1870s by B.F. Westcott, a London spiritualist. She doesn't say that he was the founder of the Golden Dawn. She doesn't say that he was a Rosicrucian, that he was a Freemason, that he was a ceremonial magician, that he was an esoteric Freemason, any of these other things that are actually connected with W.W. Westcott. If she was conflating them, she would not simply just say spiritualist. He was not simply a spiritualist. He was a lot crazier than that, okay? And she says here, look, secular historians and numerous occult books see him as the father of the current channeling phenomenon, a major source of the doctrines of devils driving the New Age movement. Okay, so secular historians Who are these secular historians? We're talking about three guys primarily. Later on in this on this page, you'll see that where the researchers are referring to rascals. And I'm not saying that they were spiritualists. Apparently, the way that Blavatsky referenced B.F. Westcott and his wording to try to get out of different creeds and things and make them actually mean exactly the opposite of what the creed said, she used that ambiguity to support New Age teachings. And the Ghostly Guild apparently was associated with some of the channeling stuff. So, anyways, check out those three guys. That's what we're talking about mostly here. And neither of these three secular historians that she references, the three that I was able to find in the book anyhow, none of them refer to Wacky Walrus Westcott. They refer to Barney Fife Westcott. And numerous occult books see him as the father, quote, the father. I don't remember seeing that part in there, but it probably is. Of the current channeling phenomenon, which William Wynn Westcott, as far as I'm aware, is not considered that. And the modern channeling phenomenon is a major source of the doctrines of devils driving the New Age movement. So that's that. Textual Confidence Collective says the following right here. This is simply there is simply no reasonable way in which Christian scholar Barney Fife Westcott, whatever his flaws, can be described in this way. How is he being described? He is being described as a London spiritualist. I think Cambridge is in London, right? And that he is identified by secular historians as the father of the current channeling phenomenon. Check out their quotes below in the researchers referring to rascals section and let me know what you think. James White revealed, okay, wait, hang on a second. Described in this way, this is a clear description of the other Westcott. The other Westcott. Nope, see, when she's talking about that, she's obviously, this is totally talking. Hang on. Did you check the references to the three secular historians that she talks about? I'm sorry. If she was referring to the William Wynn Westcott, that would make this whole situation even more juicy, okay? But from what I can see from looking at what she wrote in her book and who she references and the references that she gives, she's not referring to William Wynn. Okay? Wacky Walrus Westcott does not have any bearing on the text that's actually written in the book until you get to footnote 128, where there's like, she's like, this is mildly amusing to consider, but it doesn't have any bearing on my thesis. And then she forgets about it. Anyways, James White revealed this error many years ago here in his paper called Why Respond to Gail Rilplinger. And if you click on that, it'll take you to the article. The link that they actually provide is what that link is. Daniel Wallace reveals this error starting at minute 10 in this video, which has been freely available online for multiple years. I have not listened to that video yet. I'm looking forward to it. Textual Criticism, Lesson 25. I'm assuming that Wallace is probably referencing James White's Why Respond to Gail Rilplinger, because that thing is ancient. So I'm assuming that that's probably what he references when he gets to that point. I can't imagine that Daniel Wallace took New Age Bible versions that seriously. I know that he had a lot of criticisms for it, but anyhow. I don't know if he wrote like a full rebuttal at any point. He might have. I would love to see that. All right, anyways. It sounds familiar. Moving on. Notice, and I'm sorry for all of the Bible version conspiracy nerddom that's going on tonight, but there's a lot of stuff. So here. Notice that Ward and the Textual Confidence Collective do not say that Gail used quotations from William Wynn, claiming that they were Barney Fife. Highlight Barney Fife. There we go. They state that quote, Riplinger identifies the two, though she admits that it is a speculation and that her book continues to speak of Westcott in terms that are only correct if the two are indeed the same person. Okay, so they are implying that they are deducing that since she is calling him a spiritualist, she obviously must be talking about the William Wynn Westcott that she talks about in footnote 128, which I don't know if they've even read. Okay. The TCC, then, and they may have, I forget. I've got a terrible memory. I watched the entire video of him talking with whatever that guy's name is. I forget his name. One of the Textual Confidence Collective guys. Of Ward talking with him. I watched the whole thing of that. Very impressed by it. They did a good job. Except for that part, I was like, nah. And then also the description. I don't even remember if they mentioned William Wynn in that video where they actually talked about specifically the quotes about Brooke Foss Westcott and Hort. My memory is awful. So correct me if I'm wrong. Leave a comment. I'm just trying to learn. Learning publicly. We will, okay. The Textual Confidence Collective takes issue with a single quote from Gail, which simply states that, quote, secular historians and numerous occult books see him, that is B.F. Westcott, and numerous occult books. I did not see numerous occult books. I saw like the Encyclopedia of Occultism or something. I do not remember seeing a lot like, you know, some dark tome from somewhere ancient and creepy and stuff like this. I didn't see that blaming Westcott for channeling. I don't remember that. Not at all. Father of the current channeling phenomenon, a major source of the doctrines of devils driving the New Age movement. We will see the secular historians and numerous occult books she refers to shortly. I think the problem here is that the Textual Confidence Collective is overlooking something that Gail wrote because they see her statements as ridiculous attacks on scholars like Westcott and wish to spend as little time examining her statements as possible. Many KJV only people are guilty of this practice regarding those like the Textual Confidence Collective, whom they feel are ridiculously attacking their favorite KJV only authors. So we're all guilty of breezing through somebody that we don't like's work and misrepresenting them. The only problem is that a lot of people, as far as James White's apologetics these days, as he's gotten older, they've been like, he's just kind of turned into a snake, especially people that oppose him on Calvinism. And they say that there are three things that are certain in life. This is what one commenter said on a video about Bailgate. The channel is called The Church Split, and a comment in there said that that there are three things that are certain: death, taxes, and that James White is going to make your position is going to well, how did he word it? That James White is going to misrepresent your position in the best way for him to be able to defeat it. So, yeah. We will also see Gail's answer to this charge in her book, Blind Guides. Check out her website for a free PDF of the book. You click the link right there, the website, or Blind Guides. Click either of those, and it's going to take you right to where you can download a free copy of Blind Guides. Or you can purchase a print copy. Apparently, the text is not selectable, so you can't really search that one, but it's in PDF anyway, so that's kind of nice. In James White's article, which is right here, which Ward mentioned above, he states, here's what James White says, and then we're going to go on to Gail Riplinger's answer, which apparently nobody takes the time to do. Now, this is a shame, and this is something that I've been just disgusted at for years. James White's response, the only one that I'm aware of where he actually mentions blind guides, he says her classic Gail Rilplinger, her only response is to play games with a person's name and make cartoons. That kind of like, okay, how about you make a criticism of somebody, and then when they reply to you, how about if you consider their reply? Instead of just going, you're an idiot, I'm not going to waste my time. Like, come on. Thoroughly irresponsible and gross. Finally, so this is what he says. Finally, and he has one point, and then he has a second one about William Wynn, which is the only one that we cite here. The other one was about some textual critical issue. Finally, I wish to address very briefly Mrs. Riplinger's confident statements about Westcott and Hort. So, 2. Mrs. Riplinger never once, and you can read the entire thing if you want to, just click the link. It's just there, okay? It's not hard. And it's also down here, so you can click that as well. I really should work on this text. This is awful. I got to figure out WordPress better. Mrs. Riplinger never once mentions the fact that many of her confident statements about Westcott and Hort being spiritualists are based upon pure speculation on her part. And notice it goes from Westcott and Hort to Westcott. Weird. All right, being spiritualists are based on pure speculation on her part. Note reference 128. On page 676 and 677 of this one, the old one with the red dragon. The new one with the gray dragon is going to be like page 400 something. I forget what it is. Alrighty. Here Mrs. Riplinger admits that in point of fact, she is not referring in her statements to B.F. Westcott, the textual critic, but to Wacky Walrus Westcott, a London mortician. She asserts that Barney Fife Westcott was in fact Wacky Walrus Westcott, and that based upon the statement of Barney Fife Westcott's son that her father wrote his B's like W's. Okay. Note the final statement she made. Quote, connection between Barney Fife Westcott and the activities attributed to the possible allonym Wacky Walrus Westcott are speculation on my part. You're welcome, dear. That was my wife's idea, by the way. Alrighty. Possible element. Okay. Did Mrs. Riplinger ever note this on Action 60s? There's Action 60s right there. I'll have to link the video there at some point. Did she ever say, now what I'm saying about Westcott and Hort comes back in, I'm sorry, is in fact merely speculation on my part? No, because there was no W.W. Hort, okay? There was a Wacky Walrus Westcott, not a Wacky Walrus Hort, okay? It would have to be Humphrey Horse Hort, because the alliteration. What was his name? Yeah. Homer Horse. Homer Horse Hort. No, he wasn't in there. All right. No. She made her assertions directly and without qualification. Yeah, because it was unnecessary. What is more amazing, now, I don't think that she even thought that Wacky Walrus and Barney Fife were the same. I really don't think that she did. She does, however, say in Blind Guide something very interesting that possibly indicates that she did. We'll have to see. what you think. What is more amazing is the fact that the very source Mrs. Riplinger cites indicates that B.F. Westcott was born in January of 1855, and Wacky Walrus Westcott was born in December of 1848. Barney Fife Westcott died in July 1901. Wacky Walrus Westcott died on June 1925. Indeed, the book Mrs. Riplinger cites most often is Barney Fife Westcott. The Life of Westcott was published 22 years before Wacky Walrus Westcott died. So, in other words, his letters are published posthumously, and that 22 years later, Wacky Walrus dies. Furthermore, Wacky Walrus published his work, Sefer Yetzirah, the Book of Formation, in 1911, which I believe was the year C.S. Lewis was born, if I'm not mistaken. Was he born that year? I forget. I forget if it was the year he was born or if something else happened. I forget. I haven't read Surprised by Joy in so long, which I've only read it once, so why read it again? A full decade after B.F. Barney Fife Westcott was dead. How she can maintain that Barney Fife Westcott is actually Wacky Walrus Westcott, I have no idea. End quote. So I don't think she maintains that. And it also did not form a formational part of her book. And she is very clear about that in the footnote and also in blind guides like we're about to see. Notice that White says Mrs. Riplinger. We're here on this paragraph now. Notice that White says Mrs. Riplinger admits that in point of fact, she is not referring in her statements to Barney Fife Westcott, the textual critic, but to William Wacky Walrus Westcott, who washed Washington's whitewash while Washington went west. A London mortician. No, she does not say that she is referring in her statements to, because her statements are referring to sources that are the life of Westcott and writings of Westcott and stuff like this, the Westcott of textual critical fame. I would love to see any of these people dig up one thing in the entire book that is concretely referring to the ceremonial magician, Rosicrucian, esoteric Freemason, theosophist guy that she could have gotten so much mileage out of if she was referring to him. Guys, seriously, huge question for the people that want to say that what she's referring to is Wacky Walrus, which is a wacky idea. Why did she not get more mileage out of the legit occultist then? How come she just called him a spiritualist and just left it at that? Don't you think the temptation would be a little bit too great to pass up a ceremonial magician, occult Rosicrucian, theosophist, hermetic, founder of the Golden Dawn, such? Seriously. The infamous footnote 128. The problem is that Gail does not provide this footnote seen below to make a connection between the actions of these two Westcotts, but rather to add information that may be of interest to the reader. She says it's mildly interesting. Her claims of Westcott's spiritualism come from books of Westcott's letters published by his son, and the connections between the Ghostly Guild and SPR reference more than some Westcott. They don't just say Westcott. They say things like BF Westcott. They say Barney Fife. More on this in a moment. Here's a screen capture. So this is where the footnote is attached. William Wynn is down here. See footnote 128, and then hit this little arrow, and it takes you to footnote 128. And you can read the whole thing right there. Page ends there. There's the reference right there. Next takes you to the next page where you have the wrap-up of the quotation. And it's a little bit shaded down there, but it's available. And you can download the picture or what have you and check it out. Could she say it any clearer? Because she does say in the current editions, she's not just perpetuating nonsense or whatever. She actually makes this very clear because of what she came into contact with writing blind guides and stuff. So she had to write that, and then she brought it into the newer edition of the book, where she says that it's mildly interesting, but it has no... but they are not the subject of the book. His own esoteric beliefs and occult connections are well documented in this book, chapters 30 and 31. All the discussions and accompanying quotations in those chapters are about Barney Fife Westcott, not William Wynn. It is inconsequential to the thesis of this book whether or not the founder of the occult Golden Dawn Society was, as the Outer Order says, a mortician living in England at the time, or was someone else. It's inconsequential. And she apparently doesn't even think that they were. I can't really think how she could. The birth and death dates thing, though, it's like, seriously, think about it. Okay, we're dealing with possibly an immortal being, or we're dealing with somebody playing somebody else, okay? So if William Wynn has a completely separate identity, and he's not just like a pen name, then he's going to have an actual death date and birth date that is going to be separate, purposefully separate from William Wynn. So he publishes a book after B.F. Westcott's death. Well, that just means that there was a book published posthumously. I personally don't think that they were the same. But if you have a double life where you're playing somebody else, then this other person is definitely not going to be born the same day and die the same day as you did. That's a little bit too obvious. But if it's just a pen name, then nobody's actually going to meet this William Wynn, and there's not going to be a photograph of him available on the internet, which we provide on the website. There is an elaborate thing going on here if a conspiracy like that is true. And I personally don't see any reason for it. So leave your comments, and what do you think? Question of the day. Do you think that B.F. Barney Fife Westcott and Wacky Walrus Westcott, do you think that they were the same person? I would love to hear your thoughts down in the comments. And I read all of your comments. I don't always get a chance to respond, but I read them, and I appreciate them. It helps. It lifts me up when I'm, kind of like, this doesn't matter anymore. Why am I doing this? Because this is a lot of work, guys. This is a lot of work. Here's what Gail says. This is copied via my phone scanning the page. So if there's any typos, I tried to get rid of them, but please forgive. This is Riplinger. This is her quoting James White. And if you scroll down to here, this is my thoughts. It's going to look different on mobile. These are my thoughts. And then this is an actual screen capture of the page. And you can click blind guides right there, like I said before, and actually download the entire PDF. This is on page 35 of the book, the document. I don't remember which page it is on of the PDF. Anyhow, super easy to find. It's going to be after the page 35 when you look up the PDF page 35. Anyway, this is Riplinger. Never once mentions the fact that many of her confident statements about Westcott and Hort being spiritualists are based upon pure speculation on her part. She is not referring in her statements to B.F. Westcott, the textual critic, but William Wynn Westcott, a London mortician. Did Mrs. Riplinger ever note this on Action 60s? Did she ever say, now what I'm saying about Westcott and Hort is in fact merely speculation on my part? No. She made her assertion directly and without qualifications. That's what James White said. Gail Rilplinger responds, and the section title in the book is called White's Legally Actionable Lies. I don't know what she means by legally actionable. Is she like, I could sue this person over this? And the reason why she's saying this, is, like I say in a minute, it'd make you think that she's a little bit, she's got a chip on her shoulder. She's got a problem. But the way that I'm like, trying to look from her perspective, she is literally looking at somebody who's just like, they literally just said that every time I mention Westcott in my book, I'm actually referring to a Rosicrucian, ceremonial magician, hermetic order founding dude, and not even talking about B.F. Westcott. And then I'm just assuming for the entire book that they were exactly the same person, when I don't do that. And it's a clear lie for him to say that every time I reference a Westcott in the book, I am talking about William Wynn. And yes, that would be a clear lie, because every footnote is going to something that is completely separate from William Wynn. It's talking about Barney Fife. So here's what she says. And I get where she's coming from, but I don't think this was necessary, because she, I believe, is misunderstanding what he is saying, where she is just, I'll explain in a second. White's purposeful misrepresentation here is legally actionable. It is clearly and plainly libelous or libelous. It is inconceivable that White, a college graduate, could read the citations from the cited books about the life of Barney Fife Westcott and his involvements and conclude that all of these citations in the body of the book were references to Wacky Walrus Westcott. And yes, it is inconceivable. I hope that there's nobody out there that actually thinks that. There probably are, because the way that White handled this is very irresponsible. And the way that everybody who is perpetuating the Wacky Walrus myth, they're also being irresponsible, because they're not actually checking to see what Gail Rilplinger actually thought about what she wrote, and they're also not reading the footnote to everybody, so they can clearly see that it is inconsequential to the thesis of the book, and also taking them to the spots, like I do later on, where she actually talks about spiritualism and spiritism, and I'll give you the pages, the screen captures of every time that it's even mildly interesting to include. All citations and discussions in the references, in the text of New Age Bible versions are about Barney Fife Westcott. A simple trip to each footnote will tell the reader, will take the reader to the source proving this. Likewise, all comments made on Action 60s were about Barney Fife Westcott. His own esoteric activities have led researchers, I am not alone, researchers, plural, that's wrong. I am only aware, personally, I am only aware of one, and this is after asking Gail, I am only personally aware of one person who was a researcher that thought that Wacky Walrus could have been or was Barney Fife. His own esoteric activities have led researchers, I'm not alone, yeah, one other person, to surmise that perhaps he may also have been the person responsible for activities attributed to William Wynn Westcott. Now, there may have been somebody else that felt this way. When I emailed Gail, she mentioned one person, and we'll get to that. To surmise that perhaps he may also have been the person responsible for the activities attributed to Wacky Walrus Westcott, the name put forth as a blind by the Order of the Golden Dawn. This theory was mentioned in a footnote, just stuck it way back in there. Just a thing. And then everything blows up all over this just little tiny, ooh, look at this. You know, it's like, would you read the book, please, instead of, duh, oh my goodness. This theory was mentioned in a footnote, but is totally parenthetical to the rest of the book, and in no way relates to the body of the book. And that's Blind Guides, page 35. Harsh words. Heading the reply with legally actionable has certainly caused more than one person to wonder what exactly Gail's problem is. But I get it. She feels that someone is putting effort into misrepresenting her book in any way possible. She thinks that White is claiming that Gail confused, or that she confused, the two men completely and drew conclusions based on her conclusions, or drew conclusions based on her confusion. Reading White's statement carefully dispels the confusion. Gail, sorry, read what he said, please. White's statement carefully dispels. Reading White's statement carefully dispels the confusion. Quote, her confident statements about Westcott and Hort being spiritualists. That is the only thing. Are based upon pure speculation on her part. Did she ever say, now what I am saying about Westcott and Hort, that is, them being spiritualists, is merely speculation on my part? No. She made her assertions directly and without qualification. It's sad how on both sides of the modern Bible translation divide, it is sad to see that on both sides, how a lack of communication and a careless understanding of your opponent can lead to such nonsense. I'm not saying that Gail gave White what he deserved. White was unaware that Gail's speculation was not how she attached the label spiritualist to Westcott. It wasn't the speculation about WW and BF that did not lead her to put the badge of spiritualist on Westcott's jacket. It is also clear that Gail misunderstood his statements to refer to the entire book's citations rather than simply labeling Westcott a spiritualist. There's more than enough misunderstanding to go around with plenty to spare. And we're going to end here with Master of Disguise. If you guys want to go on to the website, BibleVersionConspiracy.com/Westcott and Hort. I will copy that. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to paste it. Am I going to be able to paste it? Do I get to do that? Comments. All right. Spray Arm says, nope, two different people. All right. There's the link to the page if you want to check it out. So here's where we get into the Master of Disguise. Is this what happened? I mean, really, how do you get a completely different person from, somebody else? Apparently, there's people that have done this in history. And if you watch enough movies and if you look into enough weird things, if you have an immortal being walking among men, undetected, they're going to assume several identities throughout the centuries, okay? At least a couple, especially since they always look the same. So, yeah. I don't know when we're actually going to run into these kind of things, but I don't know. Maybe you run into one of them in your lifetime, if they exist. What do you think about that? Let me know down below. Let me know down below. Master of Disguise. Master of Disguise. Personally, I think it is highly unlikely that Barney Fife Westcott was actually Wacky Walrus Westcott. They don't look the same at all, and their lifetimes don't line up. In the realm of conspiracy theories, however, this could be possible, so long as they're in an elaborate scenario ready to pop in the microwave. Barney Fife and Wacky Walrus need simply be two names for the same person who actually outlived both of his roles. And he also has to be shapeshifter, because if you're taking a picture of both of them, they don't look the same. So let's quickly give you a comparison of what they look like. So here is Brooke Foss right there. Not Brooke Foss. Brooke Foss right there. And there's Fenton John Anthony Hort, right there with his beard. And by the way, this guy in the background right here is that's Hort's nose right there. Boop. And this right here is Westcott's nose. Boop. So the lag just kills the effect. There's Kearsop Lake. Hi, Kearsop. Or Kearsop, or however you pronounce his name. And there's William Wynn and all of his garb. And if you click that link right there, it takes you to his Wikipedia page. You're welcome. You can see I put a little bit of work into this. And there's a lot more going to go into it, too. All right. Barney Fife and Wacky Walrus need simply be two names for the same person who actually, in reality, outlived both of the roles that he was playing and had way too much time and resources on his hands. This eccentric personality, who knows? Maybe it was Francis Bacon, right? Who doubled as William Shakespeare and got way too much work done, apparently, because everybody just attributes everything that they think was really intelligent to Francis Bacon. Francis Bacon scholarship has just got so many things in it that I'm just like, this makes no sense at all. This eccentric personality need only write a bunch of occult books in his secret office behind the bookcase, have them published after your death with he can have them published after his death, sorry, with a pseudonym, and voila, William Wynn Westcott is born. Now all he needs is a fake birthday and a few fake portraits. Just drag somebody in off the street, take a picture of him in a bunch of Masonic garb, hand him a $100 bill. However, further conspiracies need nuking if anyone is ever to meet the great magician. You have to have somebody actually play Wacky Walrus. Or we could just go the route of shape-shifting immortal lizard people. Anyone? Cue the conspiracy music. And not saying that they're not out there. We're going to talk about that in a sec. Or something about that. But really, why all the effort? One thing is certain. Such an elaborate conspiracy has, as would be necessary to make Barney Fife into Wacky Walrus, is hardly necessary for any nefarious deeds to be carried out, or for Gail's conclusion on Barney Fife to remain as documented as before. So, in other words, it is not necessary for the thesis of the book that they be the same person. Prove me wrong. We hope and look at the rest of the page. Spiritualists and Spiritism, researchers referring to rascals, commas everywhere. We are not Westcott's dangerous heresy. We're getting into that some more. It's Communion of the Saints. That's coming up later. Guys, we're not hands-down supporters. We're not sold out for Gail Rilplinger. We're sold out for what the truth is. And when either side of the Bible version, conspiracy, controversy, whatever, when either side of them says something wrong and I catch it, I'm going to be like, hey, YouTube, guess what? And then I will welcome, if Gail sees this video, I hope that she becomes aware of it because she is on my mailing list, and this is going to be put up on the Buy Me a Coffee posts. It's going to be put up in a week or so. She's going to see that. If she wants to watch it, she certainly can. I believe she is. I'll have to make sure that she is. Or Mark Ward. Or anybody from the Textual Confidence Collective. If any of them see this video, please drop a comment. Let's talk about this. Tell me what you can't get over. Where you're like, I still think this way, and here's why. I want to hear it. If you're a flat earther, same thing I ask of you. What is it that makes it so you're like, every time that you're like, one of your arguments falls flat on its face, like my King James ones or whatever. If there is a argument that falls flat on its face, what comes to your mind? And you're like, but there's that thing that I'm just like, nope, I can hold on to that one. That one's concrete. The earth is flat. I want to pick your brain. I want to learn from you, please. Say something. All right, moving on. We hope our efforts have cleared up the confusion regarding this controversy. From what I have seen, whether William Wynn ever lived or wrote anything in his lifetime seems to have no effect on the individual pieces of information gathered by Gail or her conclusions, though they may seem extreme. Even if you disagree with Gail, if you think that what she says is extreme and crazy and nuts and stupid and wild-eyed conspiracy theorist, you still can't tell me that anything that ever was written by William Wynn Westcott had actual bearing on what she says in New Age Bible versions. Please show me where it is. And once you've looked at the spiritualism and spiritist thing, where I give you like 18 screen captures of where those words are used, and then go down here where the researchers refer to rascals, and you have the 3 different citations there by the scholars that she's talking about, whose names are Alan Gauld, The Foundations of Psychical Research, W.H. Salter, the Society for Psychical Research, An Outline of Its History, and James Webb, The Occult Underground. And each of these links here will take you to the archive where you can read the entire book. You're welcome. Read more about William Wynn Westcott from William Wynn Westcott, which is the Wikipedia article. Books on Occultism and Esotericism by Wacky Walrus can be found on Google Books here at this link, or Amazon here at this link. Also, you're welcome. And feel free to subscribe to the WordPress site or to our Buy Me a Coffee. Oh, and also just to let you know, if you guys enjoy this website that we're building, we're still building it, a lot of things. These are the topics that we cover so far. And there's a lot of other things that we're working on. If you enjoy this site, you can gift the author, which would be me. You can gift me a plan. That means that you can keep this website alive for like another year or what have you. So if you want to do that, if you want to support the website, feel free. I would appreciate it so much. That would be amazing. Thank you in advance if you feel led to do that. All right. Let's go back to here. Let's talk conspiracy real quick. Now we want to get rid of that completely. Okay. So, a couple little questions and then we're going to be done. By this time, once we edit out the co-conspirator only part at the beginning, this will be about an hour and a half probably. All right. Oh, and it's only 12:10. Not bad. So while you guys were asleep, this is what I was doing. All right. So, question. Was B.F. Westcott a shapeshifter living a double life as an occultist by night and an Anglican priest by day. Was he now? Well, in my opinion, I don't think so at all. Honestly, no. I don't think that he was a shapeshifter. I don't think that Barney Fife and Wacky Walrus were the same at all. I don't think so at all. However, I do want to say a couple things. I think it might have been the guy behind Fuller Theological Seminary. I don't remember if it's the guy or not, but his wife was apparently crazy, and she said that he was not her husband, he was an imposter. Was she crazy? Was she seeing something that nobody else was? I don't know what was happening there. Similar thing with, I think maybe Wesley and, what's the guy's name? Carey, the founder of Modern Missions or whatever, or father of Modern Missions. Both of their wives, totally berserk. But were they? Were they possessed? Were they crazy? Or was there something going on? I don't know. Because remember, the Illuminati, like Fritz Springmeier has said, has infiltrated every level of Christianity. And the Illuminati stuff gets way out there. Like, way out there. We'll talk about that at some point. And if you're interested, if you've made it this far in the live stream, wow. Respect, for sure. And would you be interested in us doing a live stream on signs of satanic ritual abuse? I think that we really should. I think that it's in the best interest of Christianity in general that doesn't think there's anything going on, because there is. There are Satanists in our churches, and we need to know how to spot it. Fuller's wife's accusations, Daddy's demon face, where man who was out cheating on his wife and drinking and everything else like this, who had some real problems with gambling and just all sorts of things, comes home, his kids see him, his wife sees him. Kids are terrified. They said his eyes were completely evil, his smile was completely evil, his face looked like the devil, and they ran terrified to their mother and was just like, "Mom, it's not Dad. What just came home is not Dad." And she's looking at him, and she doesn't see what they're talking about. That was on a confessionals episode just recently, members only episode called Daddy's Demon Face. Fritz Springmeier mentions a pastor who by day was a regular pastor, but he apparently was part of a program when he was younger against his will that took, and this is where we're in the conspiracy part of the Bible version conspiracy, okay? So Mark Ward, I don't know if you want to stick around or not. I don't know. He was apparently tortured in a way that made his personality split. And by night, he was a bizarre satanic high priest of some sort. And Fritz Springmeier was working with him, and they found out that he had a split personality, and they uncovered what he was doing, and he was devastated. He had no idea that this was going on. But did he? I'm not sure. Because if your cover as a pastor, oh my goodness, I can't believe this is going on. Yeah, okay. So I don't know. I wasn't there. I wasn't involved. Fritz Springmeier was. He works with those kind of people. Girl wakes up in the middle of the night. This was a testimony that was mentioned recently on a live program by the Soul Trap with Joel Tillis of Suncoast Baptist Church in Florida. And he mentions a girl that woke up in the middle of the night. Her dad's standing in front of her. This has happened a few times where a parent is apparently there, but it's not their parent. And her father's like, get up, come with me, it's time to get up. And it's like 3 a.m. And she's just like, what the heck's going on? So she follows him out of the room. He goes to the front door, opens the front door, goes outside, come on. And she almost goes with him. But then a voice from behind her says, dear, what are you doing? It's her father and her mother that are like, what are you doing? She's like, I was just following you outside. And this thing that was impersonating her father, I don't know any of the details because they didn't elaborate, but they said that it turned into something terrifying. That's all I know. The lead singer of Smashing Pumpkins said that he knew someone, and they said that they were going to transform into something else right in front of him, and apparently it did. The person transformed into something that he described as unhuman. And then when you get into the crazy world of lycanthropes and stuff, then that's just a whole another thing that we can talk about at some point. The point is that supernatural entities can assume a form that you are comfortable with, or something that relates to you, like the person that woke up in the middle of the night and there was a giant Pikachu or whatever laying on top of her, or the guy that had the being that was changing in between different cartoon characters like Fred Flintstone and what have you, or the girl that woke up and she looks down and there's a little playground with penguins playing on it on top of her. They assume a form that's going to make you not freak out, but that depends on whether or not they're trying to invoke fear. So anyways, that's a whole nother discussion. So shape-shifting, weird stuff happens, okay? And if you don't want to think that it happens, and if you don't want to believe in conspiracy theories, then I challenge you to listen to the hundreds of episodes of the the Confessionals with Tony Merkel. Go right ahead and listen to some of those, and you just tell me that everybody that's on there is a dumb liar. Okay. Who thought that Wacky Walrus Westcott could have been Barney Fife Westcott? The woman's name was Carol, spelled Caryl, Matriskiana, Matriskiana, of Jeremiah Productions, and she died around before 2019. I believe it was she had died recently by December 2019. Quote, this is an email that Gail sent me. This is what she said. Quote, she thought BF was WW. She was quite the researcher on world religions. And we have an email that she sent us on me inquiring as to who these other people were that she mentions. She said researchers, I am not alone, and she only supplied me with one. So I'm assuming that there was only one person that actually thought that way. And she said that she thought that he was, not that he could have been. So, but anyways, I'll have to make a video just about that email so you guys can get all that lowdown there. Do I think that Gail Rilplinger actually believed that Barney Fife was Wacky Walrus? She says she's not alone in Blind Guides, page 35. His own esoteric activities have led researchers, I am not alone, to surmise that perhaps he may also have been the person responsible for the activities attributed to Wacky Walrus Westcott. The name put forth as a blind by the Order of the Golden Dawn. So in other words, this person never existed. It was just a code name that existed to shade the reality of who the founders of the Golden Dawn were. However, there's a photograph of these 3 founders available online. So, not such a secret. All right. So, but she's writing this before the internet, so she really should have checked this now. Anyways, on New Age Bible Versions 2021, page 474, she says, quote, although any connection between Barney Fife Westcott and the activities attributed to the possible allonym Wacky Walrus Westcott are mildly interesting, they are not the subject of this book. So that's that. Was Barney Fife Westcott a shapeshifter? I don't believe so. Guys, we're going to keep jumping down the rabbit hole, the old rabbit hole, every Friday night, live, and then with an after show. We might do a slight after show. Tonight, we may have enough time for that. So if anybody is interested in that is watching, I see there are 2 people watching. I appreciate you so very much. Spray Arm, you're probably going to want an after show. If you don't, please leave a comment in the sidebar, and we will do that at some other point. And if you guys want to join us live, like I mentioned, if you guys like the Bible version conspiracy nerddom, then jump in head first, right? Jump in. There's a link down in the description. Lock yourself in at $7 a month for the co-conspirator membership program, where you guys get access to all of the stuff that we publish that doesn't make it out yet. All the stuff that's early access, all the stuff that is members only, and once we get this all nailed down, the members only stream. And once we get to $500 monthly income from the Buy Me a Coffee co-conspirators, we plan to do a nightly, daily stream with our members to show our appreciation for you guys. And we do appreciate you very much. As always, read your Bible like the devil's after it, because it truly is a Bible version conspiracy. Have a good night. We'll talk soon.